that countdown was totally incorrect, Andrew J. That was not supposed to be in another 2 hours. It When I was setting that up, it actually said, um, yeah, set it for 8 a.m. And then when I set it, I go to my, I've got it all set. I go into the list where I've got the episode ready to go, and it says, yeah, that's going to be at 6 a.m. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it at 6 a.m. Um, so I tried to change that up, and I thought, how can I make this work? So I put it for 10. And then when I go to have that set, it says, okay, your episode will start at 8 a.m. Okay, so apparently it still thinks it's starting at 10. I don't know. But hopefully everybody else knows it was not starting at 10. So good morning to Andrew, if you're still here. Wow. Yeah, you dropped that 40 minutes ago. So there's 2 people in here, it says right now. So to whoever's here, good to see you. Glad you're here. Hey, we're the right way again today. I have things set up a little bit. So let me get a slightly better angle so I'm not cutting my own head off here, right? How's not so crooked, maybe? Let's see what it looks like. Crooked? Yeah, it's not bad. Not too bad at all. Oh, well, hey, it's the cancerous Blexican. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Sovereign, good to see you. I think Andrew is still in here. I don't know. Some other people are here. There's at least 5 of y'all pouring in. Daggum. I love it. Later. Try tonight. It wants to start updates now. Gotta love that. All right. Oh, good. Well, this morning we're going to talk a little bit about what I've been up to running wise, and I have this really awesome tactic that I'm going to use. Give me one. What should I say? Give me 15 seconds. I realized I didn't grab this beforehand. So you got dead air, but it's not dead air because I'm still here. I wish I could play music, right? All right. So the dead air is finishing up here. As I've said in the past, I like running, and when I run, I wear these things, the Vibram 5-finger shoes, and I've been wearing these for a while. These kind of smell, because last night, some of you may be aware, I was talking in the Hangouts, and then I said, I gotta go run again. I got in another, half a mile to a mile. I think I actually did a full mile, but it was broken up a little bit, just timing where my quarter mile times are at. So yeah, these are the shoes, and I've had these for a couple of years now. And as you can see, they've seen better days. I'm using duct tape to try and hold things together, but I've actually used shoe goo or whatever it is to try and glue this all back together. It breaks down. But what I've been doing that works out pretty well, I take masking tape, and once I've got the shoe in, I'll wrap it about 3 or 4 times. Stays perfectly. Otherwise, this is going like this in the wind. It's all flapping all over the place. But with that masking tape on there, it doesn't do that. It's kind of nice. It works out. We've already sought to remedy this. We found a pair interim, that could work for a while. They're not as nice as the Vibrams, and I've been using the Vibrams for, I don't know, a good number of years. I've been using some kind of minimalist running shoe for, a very decent amount of time, and I have had far less problems with my lower back and all that type of things since I started doing that. Big fan of those. Oh, but dang, look at y'all. I didn't even look at the chat. That was my next thing, by the way. Thank you. Thank you. That wasn't the point, but thank you, Dom. I appreciate it. It wasn't meant to be a sob story. It was more meant to say I've put these things through the ringer because I've been trying to run so much, and it's very necessary to do. Now, if you still feel motivated, I'm not going to say no. Thank you. I appreciate that in advance. But yes, I am actually going to put a new link up today in the description as well. Another thing people can do if you want to support the channel, it's going to be a link for Sweatcoin. Sweatcoin is an app you can get on your phone. I believe you can get it on Android. Yeah, my wife had a version of it on Android, and you can definitely do it on iPhone because that's where I've been doing it. But it's kind of part of that. I've talked about it before. Part of that whole digital currency kind of thing, cryptocurrencies. It's not officially on the cryptocurrency exchange yet. Sweatcoin isn't, but its intention is, the intention is for it to be, and then it'll be a tradable commodity you can have out there. But you can earn it by running, and I think you can also earn stuff by getting people to sign up, getting them involved doing their thing. Now, it's a little big brothery because it uses GPS data. It uses I'm trying to think what are the other things that were in there. It uses your accelerometer in the phone, and it also syncs with your health app if you're like an iPhone user, and uses those 3 different data points to make sure that you're doing it all outside. Now they're trying to improve it where you don't have to do everything outside. You could do it on a treadmill indoors eventually. People have tried to do it on a bike. It's not quite as effective that way. It's usually good for outdoor running. So it's really kind of more of a summertime, spring to fall time app. There are those that really like to run in the winter. My wife is one of those unique characters who's done a fair amount of running outdoors in the winter, and I married her because people like that need to be loved. There's something special going on there. However, I've got several special things going on with me, and so thankfully she she chose to be with me too. It reminds me of a joke some of you may have heard. Kind of the old Adam and Eve type of thing, battle between the sexes. And it's one of my favorites because it's such a great dig. Adam is talking to God, and he says, God, you made this woman for me, and she's so amazing. I mean, she's just incredibly beautiful. I can't believe it. I mean, wow, just stunning. Every day I get to wake up and look at that beauty. It's absolutely breathtaking. That said, God, I do have a question for you. I think. Well, I mean, you can do anything. You're incredibly powerful. I know you've got some sort of plan that I don't understand, and I know you love me. You made that abundantly clear. But why did you? I don't know how to say this, but maybe I should just come out and say it. Why'd you have to make her so dumb? And God looks right at her and says, I didn't make her dumb enough to love you. So it's always been one of my favorites. It's such a good dig. Yeah. So I would say that I definitely feel like Adam after God talks to him. A lot of the time, that's what you get. A little mental smack in the head. Yeah, she does so many amazing things for me. And in a lot of ways, she's got visual intelligences and organizational intelligences. I don't know if that's an intelligence, but I would call it one. That are superior to my own. I am definitely an artistic mind. I am definitely very ADD in the way that I manifest my thinking. Anybody who's watched even one of these live streams probably gets that idea. What? No. Yes. At any rate, we were talking about running in shoes, and now I'm telling an Adam and Eve joke, and how my wife is way smarter than me, which is a great thing to do anyway. It's a worthwhile segue, but we're going to ride our way back over here to the running thing. Let's see here. take a little look. Yuck. Yeah, yeah. It's not. Those shoes aren't for everybody. It's for sure. I saw some of the fun last night. But you're talking to Kikya. So I went back and I looked in some of the app and I saw this character in the app. I'm wanting to just preface this before we get going on the main thing here, but so this blue check mark Owen Benjamin character, which I take it was not Owen, um, was not having a good day. Is that what was going on? He was a Nazi sympathizer. Oh man, well, I don't see Kiki. I don't see a lot of hobos buying $100 shoes, 90, 80 to $100. That's well, it's 80 to $100 because I have honker feet. I have size 12s. Um, oh, somebody that hates all except for whiteys, huh? Oh wow. Okay, so this was certified blue checkmark guy, Owen Benjamin, not Owen Benjamin. I was curious about that. I wondered what was going on. I look really old and ugly. Hey wife, I need a compliment. Well, your eyesight is damn near perfect. That's so good, Sovereign Bear. That's wonderful. Okay, just at random, like two people, he said those things, and I told him I was whiter than white in the app. Owen is Big Bear in the app. Yes, no, I agree, and that's why I knew that wasn't Owen. Yeah, he was totally a troll of some kind, but he was all upset because people were saying mean things to him. This was like I woke up at about four something, and I was just peeking in there real quick and I saw some kind of back and forth that was pretty intense between was it Walking Bear? Might have been Walking. It might have been. I know Big Bang was in there. A couple other people, and yeah. So I just got a taste of whatever might have been going on yesterday. Didn't seem like it was pleasant. So um, maybe I'm glad I missed that. Maybe I'm not. I've got a. I was trying to go back through Owen's stream and see what people were talking about that happened in his stream because I caught some of that. I caught the bits where he had Prager sitting down with Shapiro and taking excerpts from that about what Prager said about societies. It's like you can have individuals that don't believe in God, and that's fine, but you have to have a belief in God to structure the society, to give it structure. I thought that was a pretty brilliant thought. And he was also saying it's like the other thing that was amazing was how the wrong questions are sometimes asked, and I like that because that's like something Peterson would say as well. And I've often thought it's the case. Like when I'm teaching, sometimes I have to reset my students because they're thinking, oh, so when do I get to play? When can I play speed metal, or when can I play this crazy cool lick that I saw on here? It's like, well, I think you're asking the wrong question, right? I gotta get their mind reset to focus on a much bigger picture because that's really what this is all about. And they're gonna fundamentally limit themselves if they just stay in that frame of thinking. And Peterson and Prager have both done that with people at times. But when he was saying, when Prager was saying that people are always saying like, why is there poverty? Why is that going on? You should be poverty's the norm. Poverty's the status quo for much of the world. You should be asking, why is there affluence? Why does that happen at all? How is that possible? It's like capitalism. Period. It's the only thing that's ever truly raised people out of it. And he's an intelligent man, so I could take his statement at face value, and I'd probably have to dig in a little more to see if it can become my truth, in that sense, where I don't just take it by somebody else's word. I've really dug in and researched that to truly own that. I think it's reasonable to assume, but at the same time, especially coming from the source, that it does, that statement. But again, it's something that I would want to understand more about. So I'm continuing to try and dig into the Gulag Archipelago. I'm trying to continue to dig into that book, Marx's Daughters, and get more perspective on um, political ideologies and ways of governing that I tend not to agree with, so that I can understand them more clearly and see what the arguments for them would be, right? Um, I just think it's a worthwhile way to spend your time. Always keep learning. Always keep just be a learning machine. Um, oh, you out, Dom? You guys are cracking me up. I just look at the chat and there's other stuff that's going on since, so I miss out. Yeah, yeah. Owen has been doing later streams, Kiki. You're right. Um, don't think that has to do with the race. Yeah, yeah. That whole business is really disconcerting. That people have gone there. I understand the IQ statistics argument. I've seen that made by a number of different people. Um, I kind of understand a little bit where the white identitarians are headed with some of that, and that they're not trying to be personal, some of them with it. Some of them are just straight racist, I think, but I think there's plenty of them that like see their position as logical. But just because they see their position as logical doesn't necessarily mean that it's good, right? Um, doesn't necessarily mean that it is logical, right? There's always, it's kind of like what I was talking about yesterday, there's always stuff you don't know yet, and you should always assume that you don't know everything yet, before you start making big sweeping conclusions like that, especially when your conclusions lead you to exclusion of people, right? To just say no, right? And there's biblical examples of that, right? So, okay, Israel, right, was God's chosen people in the Bible, right? That's the way they were talked about again and again, and the way they understood themselves. So when you get to the time of Jesus being here on the earth, you might hear me say Yeshua from time to time. That's about how his mother would have pronounced his name. Some people say Yeshua. Um, there's a gazillion and one different ways to pronounce certain names. Some of them might have better evidence to them than others. I'm not super fully informed on all this. I just am aware that it's a big debate. So I tend to say Yeshua. Um, if I do, those of you who are not familiar, that's what I mean, Jesus. But at any rate, uh, he's on the scene. He's hanging out down here, and there's this whole back and forth between Jews and Samaritans, right? Samaritans were seen as half breeds, right? Because in the time of King Solomon, or I should say shortly after that, I mentioned this before, Solomon's two sons, Jeroboam and Rehoboam, they had a falling out. Jeroboam wanted to lead the nation in worship to God, or Jehovah, right? Jehovah. Wanted to lead worship in that where they still used pagan idols as mediums to worship through, right? Channels through which to worship. They wanted to include elements of pagan worship rituals and things in their worship to God. In Deuteronomy, there's a verse I want to tell you exactly where that's at. I can't remember, where God tells the Israelites specifically, don't do that, right? There's traditions that some of these different peoples have, like sacrificing their children in fire before their gods. Like, I don't want you copying their stuff. That's not how to do it. And I'm sure there's a myriad of other reasons behind that whole thing. But anyway, that was an idea that they had. Like, okay, we're not gonna copy these other civilizations in order to worship our God. He's already said real clearly, like, this is how I want you to approach me. This is how we need to do this. Because if I am the creator of the universe and that whole deal, which is this how this is presented, then you're going to have to take some very specific steps in order for us to have a relationship. And he made it very specific. You'll read about like the tabernacle and the construction of that in Exodus. It's been studied by people at, I want to say MIT, maybe I have that wrong. The construction of the tabernacle has been looked at by architectural uh, professionals, and they've tried to understand the undertakings it would involve to have that constructed today. Just the tabernacle, the transportable structure that they had in the wilderness, let alone the temple that they built once the nation was established in Israel. But when they're wandering around in the wilderness, um, they have this portable thing. It's it probably one of the most expensive endeavors you could imagine. Um, and then to build that Ark of the Covenant, that's what MIT researched was the Ark of the Covenant, that whatever it was probably some kind of massive electrical superconductor, right? It could handle, and a capacitor, it could deal with massive amounts of electrical energy. So if you were going to go anywhere near it, you better take care before you do that. And the high priest of the nation would only go in there like once a year, and he had to go through tons of ceremonial washings. Couldn't wear any jewelry, no rings or any metal things. He had to take his shoes off. Couldn't go in. Had to be barefoot, so you're grounded, right? Had to wear linen clothing that would absorb sweat, so he doesn't have like the water getting in there and getting himself zapped out if he gets too close to this thing. Because if the creator of the universe were to manifest, a being that comes from outside the dimensionality that we understand, comes and inhabits a location, a specific location here on Earth, I imagine that would probably involve, in the manifesting of that individual, a great deal of electrical energy. I suspect that would probably be a part of how that manifesting would take place. So, you probably have to be very specific and methodical about how human beings can interact with you and approach you in that scenario, right? Just seems reasonable. So, when these nations are going out, I should say Jeroboam and Rehoboam is where I was at, and when they're wanting to separate, and Jeroboam's wanting to take the nation and go north to the northern parts of the country, and they're going to do their thing there and worship gods and all that stuff in the way they worship God through other gods and idols. Rehoboam, he sort of leads the remaining tribes that don't want to go up there, and they stay in Judah in the south, right? In Judah's territory. That's why they're called Jews now. So it was mostly Judah, the tribe of Judah, tribe of Benjamin, and some of the Levites, the priests, staying in the south, right? Well, the majority of the other 10 tribes, yes, I just said 10, but that's named 13, right? 10 plus the 3. It was a baker's dozen, because you got Joseph, and he had 2 kids, Manasseh and Ephraim. And so we've talked about that before, where you could talk about usually 12 tribes at a time, and then one is not mentioned. Or you could say all 12, but you could say Joseph instead of Ephraim and Manasseh, and you've still represented all 12, because Joseph's dad adopted his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, as his own, in a sense, to say that they were all part of that family. So really you've got like 14 different folks, but it's weird how that all works out. It's kind of a bizarre thing. That's just something to be aware of as you're familiarizing yourself with that scenario. At any rate, so these folks split up, Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and now there's all these folks going north to do idol worship. Well, in their what they called the Northern Kingdom, they eventually made a treaty with the Assyrians. Well, guess what the Assyrians did? They broke that treaty. They weren't friends, and they not only wiped Israel, the kingdom of Israel, the Northern Kingdom as they called it, wiped them out. They forced them to intermarry with their people, right, and sort of erode their national identity. Meanwhile, in the south, Judah's staying strong. They're doing their thing, the Southern Kingdom, or the Kingdom of Judah, as they also were called. And they lasted another 100 years or so beyond this point in time. I think the Northern Kingdom got beyond the split of Solomon's kids. It was another about 200 years for Northern Kingdom. The Southern Kingdom, another 100 past that. And then the whole business with King Nebuchadnezzar from the Babylonians coming in and laying siege to them because they'd fallen away from living the way that God had wanted them to. So that nation was held in captivity. They weren't forced to interbreed with the Babylonians, but they were held in captivity in Babylon for 70 years until the Medes and the Persians took over and gave them freedom to go back to Jerusalem. So that's during that time you get to find out about Daniel, and the whole was it Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That whole business, if you're familiar with that story, happens during that time frame. But you get several hundred years down the road, and you're in the time of Jesus. Now you got the descendants of the northern kingdom folks that got absorbed into Assyria, and they're what we would call the Samaritans. So the Jews saw them as traitors to Israel. They're just, it's like, oh, your parents screwed up, and you guys, what are you worth? And they had mixed views about the scriptures and mixing Assyrian beliefs into it. So they had a different approach on some stuff, and they weren't exactly welcome. But this like superiority thing, that's where I was at, right? And I saw it as an opportunity to give all this biblical background because I enjoy doing that. And it looks like I have 5 people, so that's what I get for that. The Assyrian, or where am I? Yeah, this holding yourself up higher than others. Jesus came and he was like, no, we're not doing that. They're people. They may not be doing everything 100% the way you do, but build relationships, right? There's nothing that God said that says you can't interact with these people, right? He didn't say that, right? You can, you should, right? People. And we need to learn how to treat them like people. That's kind of important. So there's a number of other incidents that you will read about where Gentiles as well, Goyim, were not to be interacted with, but this was stuff that was added to God's word and stuff over time. And some of the disciples have some tough time letting go of that. Like Peter in the book of Acts, like chapter 9, I believe he's got this dream that people get this whole thing like it's where God said, go ahead and eat whatever you want. And it really was totally not the point of the dream. He had this big dream, and he was up having, it was a vision that came to him when he was praying up on the rooftop one day where he was at, and this sheet that was holding every type of 4-footed beast and creeping thing comes down and opens up, and God says to him, kill and eat. And Peter's like, not so, Lord, for nothing common or unclean has ever touched my lips. Only what you said is good for food. And this happens like 2 more times in front of him. He said, no, every time, not so, Lord. I'm not gonna just kill and eat. This is like a test, right? I'm not gonna do that. So, and then God's voice says to him, whatever I've made clean, don't call common. Peter has no clue what this means. He's like, wait, what? Whatever I've made clean, don't call common. I don't get it. And it says he doesn't get it. It was perplexing to him. This guy named Cornelius, he was a Roman centurion, and he had a dream that he should be sending messengers to go get Peter because he was a proselyte. He was a guy who was in the process of becoming a Jew, even though he wasn't born a Jew. He wanted to be part of that, and he'd been giving money to the Jewish people in that area. He'd been very, very supportive of them and wanted to live as one of them, to follow the God of Israel. That was his whole deal. But in this episode here in Acts, God's telling him, there's still another piece here, so you got to talk to Peter. That's the deal. So Peter's not going to go to some Gentile dude. That's not a Roman centurion unless there's like a big, okay, go ahead and do that. So these 3 dudes show up, messengers from Cornelius, and they're like, got to come with us. And he's like, okay, I guess I got to go with you. So he gets to Cornelius' house, right, with these messengers. And once he arrives, he's like, the meaning of that dream that I had is now clear, right? I get it. He's telling me, God's telling me, don't call any man common or unclean. And by man, I mean humanity, of course, in the old English way of saying that. Women are also welcome there. Z would probably be welcome there as well, or Zer. I don't know about Zen. But you don't want to be zinning, right? That was bad. That was really bad. Someone's gonna get me for that one here. I haven't looked at the chat for a minute. Yeah, it, if we start segregating ourselves because of ethnic background and because of potential IQ differences on the whole, that negates the possibility of individuals who can step out and make huge differences. You don't know that. You're not God. So, yeah, I would have to say that whole thing, whatever you guys experienced yesterday with that business, must have been pretty ridiculous. Sovereign Bear, I like your thoughts. Ark of the Covenant would be the first battery and storage facility. Yeah, if you learn how to tap it right, that'd be interesting. The Jews don't give him one for free, so they come back with it. Shocking Jews taking money. No. No, he said no, it's not good food. You guys are cracking me up. Yes, yes. Um, hey, Steve, welcome. I have to say I'm sorry. I think you just missed some interesting stuff we were dealing with here. But feel free to check back later. I think you'll dig what we were just into. It wasn't the original subject of today's video, today's live stream. We were talking about running and my good old Vibram 5-fingers. I don't necessarily like picking these up and showing you these now because they smell and they need to be washed again. Now, like I said, I've had these pair for a couple of years, and I'll let Steve see here so he doesn't have to go backtrack. See how they're absolutely falling to pieces. But I have been duct taping and then masking taping over around the outside when I go running, and they don't flap out on me or anything like that. It's pretty solid. They still work pretty well. And I say use what you've got until you absolutely can't. Do your best with it. And the drum set that you guys have seen me use on gigs, it's built like 1996 or so, 5 or 6 I think, and it still works great. It still sounds fantastic. Love that kit. Got it tuned up, sounding beautiful now, and I still have people telling me all the time they are like amazed that I can get this old student model kit to sound phenomenal. But it just takes some TLC, a little elbow grease, getting things working right. So hang on to what you got, make it work the best you can. But that wasn't the big message for today. It's only a part of it. I've got that's a little peripheral messages that seem to connect here. It's always fun, such as the life of an ADD man. Mr. Nick, you're cracking me up, man. That's awesome. Hey, if we become friends over shoes, I'll take it. If you guys have whacked out running shoes, right? Something crazy. Send me something on the Facebook. Well, some of you don't do the Facebook. Send me an email with a picture of some of your ridiculous shoes. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that. Maybe I wouldn't, maybe as long as it stays in a picture, right? Thank God that this is over video and you don't have a sense of smell coming to. There's no smell-o-vision yet. Let's hope and pray that never happens. It's probably one limitation of entertainment that I'm thankful is there. No smell capacity. So let's see. So I've been doing a lot of running, getting ready for the physical fitness test. Just looking back at some chats here. Scratch and sniff YouTube. Oh my gosh. It's probably going to happen. I've consigned myself to accepting the eventuality that's probably going to happen. And at that point, I may just have to shut down the show altogether or just not enable that feature, and you guys will be thankful. If only y'all enables it, I'm telling you, man, you kind of lose viewership. All right, so unless you smell like, cookie dough every episode, then I think it's probably all right. So running like crazy. I've been spending the last couple months trying to run, and I haven't done as much as I wish I had, but I've done a lot more than I did last year to prepare. Um, yeah, in the last couple of years, in fact, I've had some struggles. The run part of the physical fitness test has always been the most difficult one for me. Ever since I first joined, and I was preparing for over a year to get ready to do. When I was in the Army, it was a 2 mile run you had to do, and I think I had to finish it in 15 minutes and 54 seconds was my maximum. Right, I had to do it at least that quick, just under 16 minutes. So you got to do slightly better than an 8 minute mile. That was the standard when I got in back in 2002. Um, and I struggle with that. Like when I went to basic training and I ran my first 2 mile PT test, I must have done it in like 1830 something. It was abysmal. Oh, it's rough, man. But I sure worked on it. We had 4 PT tests we were going to take over the course of that basic training, and each time I got better. My second one was like already in the was it already in the passing? Yeah, I think it was already inside the passing area. It was like 15 something, and I kept bringing it down. My last PT test in basic training, I finished that mile in 14 minutes 37 seconds. Right, that was amazing. I never thought I could run 2 miles in 14 minutes and 37 seconds. That was blazing fast. I've almost run a mile and a half in that time nowadays. Really lagging. But no, what I've been shooting for is now the test is a mile and a half is the Air Force standard, and I have to do a mile and a half for my age group between the 30 to 39. I need to get it at least 13 minutes and 14 seconds or faster, right? That's what I'm shooting for. So, really what I try to aim for is to keep I measure my quarter mile and then my half mile lap times as best I can. And then I'm trying to get those tweaked to where my quarter mile time, doing a quarter mile, I can get that down between 1.5 minutes and 1:45, right? 1 minute 30 seconds, 1 minute 45, somewhere in between there. At least for the first couple or few, right? If I can get the first few quarter miles right within that range, maybe 150 occasionally, it might happen. Then I know I'm setting myself up for success. And then if I try to keep around 2 minutes, maybe 2:05, 2:10 for subsequent ones, then I'll be in great shape to have that done around 12 or 12:30. Where that ends up standing out. I might even get it under 12, which would be great. It's been a few years. Back in, I think, 2011, I was really pushing PT tests a lot better back then. And I actually got a mile and a half done in 11:21. 11:21, that's probably the fastest mile and a half I've done since I joined the Air Force. And that's nothing to write home about necessarily. I mean, yeah, it's pretty decent, but the max out time that I still would love to try and achieve at some point. I really kept pushing. I really slimmed myself back down. I think I could get to this. I think it's like 9 minutes and 11 seconds. It might be a little faster than that, or a little slower than that. But yeah, it's a bit more than 9 minutes to do a mile and a half. So that would mean that I'm consistently running my quarter miles at about 1.5 minutes or faster. If I could consistently keep up the pace of a minute and a half per quarter mile, then that would give me around a 9 minute mile and a half. So is that possible? Absolutely it is. I see it as possible. Even coming back from weighing 240 pounds and getting it done in just, actually I think I finished it in 13:50 something a few years ago, and it was still passing, but it was kind of in the danger zone. Like I had to get top on everything else. So yeah, it's in the Bible. I didn't write it, but Son of the Lord, it's pretty. Catch it cracking me up, man. I love checking the chat. And I'm gonna sit here and answer some things here in a minute, but having to do all this running has really tired the fudge out of me some days. Like there's days where I'm motivated. I'm like, let's go, let's get out there. I need to do this. I'm ready to go. There's days where like, no. No, thank you. I'm ready to not do that at all. Um, I needed to go out last night. I wanted to get a little extra in, but there was a large part of me that said, it's like 10 o'clock. I really don't want to go out now. I kept trying to find time to get out there, and it got later and later. And I can easily procrastinate, no problem. I was like, I could not do this, and that'd be okay. But I couldn't let that go. I'm like, I gotta do it. Like, that was definitely one where I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I'm gonna go do it anyway. And I was so glad that I did once I finished. I mean, I was in pain. It was unpleasant. It was sore. Yeah, left me wishing I had not done that, but a little bit. But on the larger part, it left me feeling like, you know what? Yes, I pushed for something that I didn't necessarily want to do, and I know it's going to pay off for me. That's a tough thing to develop as a habit. You're not we're not naturally inclined to want to do that. Most of us. There's some of us who are built with some kind of high levels of excuse me. Some people have high levels of discipline already built in by the time they get on this planet. I am not one of those people, nor do I ever expect to be. So, at any rate, we're probably, let's see here, I might have to go ahead and plug in. I might have to switch the angle, because I don't know how much battery I've got left on that phone, excuse me. We'll check this here in a minute. Let's see here. So, with the running, with any of the other physical fitness stuff, I find that I have a lot of those times where I'd be like, you know what, I could pass, I'm good, I'd rather not do it, it's easier to not do it, and it's easy to get caught up with other stuff that I've got to do as well, other priorities, so let me put that aside. But it doesn't just happen with running, it happens with plenty of other stuff, in life, stuff that I'm really not as motivated to do. When I get confronted with a situation like that, and I realize that I've been procrastinating on something for too long, something I really need to do, I try to start putting things in my way to make myself do it, at least most of the time. With the running, for example, again, back to that, I try to find places to go run that I want to get back to, right? If I just run on the same old track all the time, that's going to get old fast, and it's going to be demotivating. If I find other places that are outdoors, that are in nature, that are exciting to be in, I'm gonna have to get back to that. I absolutely love to get back to that. Setting up practice routines is something. Doing structured practice takes effort to sit down and plan out a practice routine. For any instrument that I'm working heavily on, and so my practice routines are kind of sporadic a lot of the time. I still get plenty of good stuff, but I could go so much further, so much faster if I had a much more structured routine and I had specific things that I was working on. So, I try to find ways to draw myself into that. How can I make that enjoyable? And I use tools like the ninja practice concept, which I may have talked about. I teach my students something that Harold Green taught me. He would say, just practice for 5 minutes, get in there and do something you plan to do just for a little bit, and then get the heck out. Just in and out like a ninja. Drop the smoke bomb, whatever you got to do. Don't let them see you. Just sneak in and out, practice, get it done. And try to do that as many times a day as you can possibly get in. Every little 5-minute session you get in, you're getting that much better. 5 minutes better. They say to become like a master level at any musical instrument, you've put in about 10,000 hours of dedicated specific practice. That's the average idea behind being a mastery level. So, at least, you could practice 10,000 hours, and if it's not specific, focused, dedicated practice, you can still sound like crap after 10,000 hours. It's entirely possible. I'd be willing to bet that I'd put in fairly close to that. And maybe I'd be surprised. Maybe I'm falling short of that. Who knows? But I've been playing drums for 25 years. I'm sure somewhere in there I can find 10,000 hours. But is it as focused and specific as it should be? Probably not. Because there's tons of players that I look up to that are like light years ahead of me. They've got certain physical things worked out, where they've trained their fingers, they've trained their wrists more consistently than I have mine thus far. They have built their sight reading capabilities, their transcription abilities to be able to hear what they're listening to and immediately translate it to written form. Like, boom, instantly. You know, I've got a long way to go there. But I've gotten places I never thought I would, especially in the last six and a half years. Yeah, I think this has been the biggest area of growth for me since 2012. Just been doing things music I never thought I would do, and I'm so thankful for the opportunities that people I've worked with. But you know, any of those things, practice is an example. I've got to find little ways to keep drawing myself back. I'm working in 3 bands now. I'm fixing to be. I've got the swing band, I've got the Ashley Bean group, the rock group, and then I've got this cover group that wants to possibly have me over this weekend. So we'll see where that goes. But they've had a decent career, and they've got some pretty, how would I put that? Pretty seasoned musicians in there, people that have done worldwide touring, you know, with different bands, and have done that for a few decades, you know. So that's a worthwhile group to be a part of, you know, if it's folks like that are like, no, we're going to get paid. We're going to go out and play gigs and get paid. That's what we're here to do. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work in your schedule and getting things organized. And when I was working with Fanny Ray and the Soul Shakers, I definitely had some weekends where I'm like, man, I am so ready to rest because I'm tired as fudge and I just don't want to do anything. So what I'm going to look for in the chat to talk to you guys about is, yeah, thank you all very much. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to seeing how these things go. It should be great. You know, keep pushing, keep looking for the next opportunity. You know, keep preparing yourself for that next opportunity. But even when you don't want to, how can you make yourself want to? What stuff can you put in your path ahead of time when you still feel like doing so that when you get to those days you're like, forget it, I'm done running. That's why I entitled this, I was running, right? Right, a little Forrest Gump reference there. But it's like when you get to those days, you're like, I don't want to be right now. My shoes are falling apart. I don't want to be running. You know, I'm ready to stop. What do you do? How do you guys deal with it? So let's talk about some of this, because I think it's a worthwhile thing to do. And I might have a couple of other thoughts to share with you all here, but just a good old boy, not so much. But thank you for saying so. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that neck has been getting burnt. I think the other day when I did my canoe and live streamed that for y'all, that definitely got me by the almost some new shoes. Oh my gosh, I love you guys. You guys are killing me. Just looking back here a little bit. Sit on the couch. Yeah, I do sit on the couch. Most just about almost. Yeah, I'm gonna have to read through a lot of this because you guys are getting out there, and I like it. It's nothing new. I mean, it's typical bear stuff, right? You know, I probably will here in a bit. I might give you a little bit more, because I did say we were going to talk about more chords, what they call diatonic chords, or I may. What did you say? Fair play. You lop dead trees and make huge fires. That sounds like a great way to relieve some stress. Does it? I mean, does doing that make you want to get back on the ball and like just get back into the game? Because that sounds like you're getting in the game just doing that. Jeez. If you ain't got no shoes, you ain't got no soul. Give us a music break and interlude. You know, but Sovereign Bear, I think I'm going to need to do that. Because sometimes that's what I do. Sometimes I'll just come to an instrument that I don't normally play. I was trying to get a little what is it now? Stairway. You know. We're not at the music store. My name's not Wayne Campbell, so it's not denied, right? Oop. nicer, like Andy McKee. Yeah, that's that switch that's always been tough. Yeah, that's just a little. Yeah, a little intro. It was one of the few things I ever learned to kind of decently do on the guitar, but it was just the intro. I never got any further than the intro. I did learn The Trees by Rush years ago. Only there is unrest in the forest, trouble with the trees. Oh, the maples want more sunlight, and the oaks ignore their pleas. Or, of course, it's all Rush tunes. That's what I've got in my head. There was one called Natural Science from their Permanent Waves album. Don't remember any of the words. Haven't listened to this song in a long time. So, not a cult, by the way. Now I do the Bible and Hebrew. It's like all my shticks, right? Guys are kicking me up. Or kicking me up? Cracking me up. So, yes. I do want to talk a little bit about what I was saying yesterday, while there's some time here. Diatonic chords, right? I'm going to use a keyboard to demonstrate this because, you go right here. I think it'll be a little bit easier to present the idea on a piano. You can kind of visualize it a little better than you can on a guitar. So, pardon my closeness here, we're going to shift over to the piano. Yeah, and we're going to bring this over here so I can see what you're seeing. A little bit of keyboard action. And let's see, how's my shot? There we go. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. A dog hair. Let's do this, in fact. So, I'll give you that angle, then you can kind of see better what I'm up to. Alright, so C major scale. All the white keys. No, I'm not a white identitarian, but it just happens to work. I will say it's kind of funny. I had my sight singing ear training teacher when I was in college. He did refer to the C major scale as God's key. Had no sharps or flats. Now, he's the least racist person I know. I'm pretty sure he's fairly far left in a lot of ways, but yeah, he's an older character that preferred referring to it that way because I think his teachers taught it that way. Hmm. Oh, the bears are kind of culty. Well, of course they are, Kiki. It's just true. Only kind of culty. Ever heard of the heavy metal Christian band Deliverance? I don't think I've heard of them, Feather. I've heard of a number of heavy metal groups. There's one called Theocracy, which is actually really, really kick butt. They're amazing. They're ridiculous looking. They're like 80s hair metal type stuff. Really, really cool. Some good shredding. If Mayer's in here, Mayer, you would love Theocracy. They're so much fun. Let's see. I've heard some like death metal Christian bands. Like there was one back in the day called Zayo, and they had some crazy, crazy stuff on their album. I mean, it was like this screaming kind of stuff. And there was another one called Living Sacrifice that had some heavy screaming. Intense groups. Um, it just is fun here though, and such a nerd, and goes into esoteric language. You guys are killing me. Um, Imani, you should have a listen. You have the voice, and guitar is very good in her songs. Well, cool. I'll have to check that out. Fair play. Thank you. See, I love it. The Bears tune me into really cool stuff. All right, so we're going to talk about diatonic chords, right? That's what today is going to be about. We talked about the modes yesterday. So it was like you take the notes of the C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? And if you're playing piano, you're wanting to learn that better. See how I did that little reach over with the thumb? It should be under. When I get to that fourth note, 1, 2, 3, just with my thumb, pointer, middle, and then I reach under with the thumb, and it just lets me smoothly play the full scale. Reach under, right? You can't really see that reach under. And then with the thumb right there, now you can see it because I have my hand up, right? So I can do that and then do the rest of the notes. So that's your C major scale. Now, what if I started that on the D? We saw that yesterday with the mode. Same notes, but I started on a different one. That one was different. I didn't go under after the third. So I went under after the fourth. And it was that fourth that sounded oddball. Right? The Simpsons has this, it uses this mode they call the Lydian mode, right? Where it's got that raised fourth in it. Because if I used F major or the F Ionian, it would sound like this. F Lydian. Got that little strange shift to it there. You can see Nessie. Where is Nessie in this? Where is it? Is it one of these like, shifts in the water or something like that? Is that what you were seeing? I wondered about that. I was like, where is it he thinks he sees that? Because that's really, really funny. It's the Black Jew letter. Oh my gosh. That's true. I suppose that could be the case. Yeah, it's like the Loch Ness. That is the letter Bet, but it can also be Nessie if you so desire. Oh my gosh. Makes this stuff so good. Oh man, I love it. So, moving forward. Alright, so we're doing the modes. We had the C major was the Ionian. I'm just backtracking so we're together. Also called the Ionian mode. That's the Greek name for it from an ancient Greek tribe that it was named for. Dorian mode. Right there, it sounds a little darker. Phrygian. Try not to hit two keys at the same time because I don't want to here. Lydian. Got that raised fourth in it. Sounds like a major mode, but slight difference. The Mixolydian, also known as our dominant mode. That's the Mixolydian. It's that lowered seventh in it. That's the one change. Not too weird, just mostly darker or sadder. That's the natural minor mode, also known as Aeolian. So our natural minor scales are that mode, the Aeolian mode, the lowered third, sixth, and seventh out of that. Then we have the Locrian. It's our Locrian mode, and then we'd be back to the Ionian at the beginning. So let's make chords from this, right? Let's see there. I do miss the intellectual conversation. I need to make sure that it gets a better piano angle with this camera because that looks great. I need to make sure. Oh, you just double typed it. Okay. You see average bear go in. Loves words and debates. Ale. Oh my gosh, you guys come up with the best quips. It makes these streams so much better. Alright, let's do that. Let's see if I can make that stream or that angle just a little bit better for you. Let's see from an angle what it is that I'm doing here. Alright. So, we'll take the C major scale, or the Ionian in this case, C Ionian, and we're going to take the first, third, and fifth notes to make a triad, or a three-note chord, right? It's a major chord, right? This is a major chord. It's got that major sound to it, right? Anytime you start with a major scale and use the first note of that scale, take the first, third, and fifth notes, you'll always get a major triad. Now, if you start on the second note of any major scale, and this would be like your Dorian mode out of that scale, the Dorian mode that you pull out of any major scale, starting from the second note. You take from that Dorian mode, this is D Dorian, I'd take the first, third, and fifth of D Dorian. That gives me a minor triad. Every time it will be a minor triad. If you're in a Dorian mode, you take the first, third, and fifth notes, it will give you a minor triad. Phrygian. First, third, and fifth notes of any Phrygian mode, wherever you're at, will always give you a minor or another minor triad. Lydian. Any Lydian mode you're in, no matter what scale you start off of, if you use the first, third, and fifth notes of any Lydian mode, you're going to get a major triad. Same with the Mixolydian, right? First, third, and fifth notes of any Mixolydian mode, wherever you start, you're always going to get a major triad. Aeolian. First, third, and fifth notes are always going to be a minor triad. Sounds darker, minor sounding. That sounds brighter, major. That's the minor sound. Locrian. Any Locrian mode you use, wherever you use it on the piano, as long as it's the Locrian mode, right? First, third, and fifth notes of that will always be a diminished triad. It's not minor. That's to get a different tone to it, right? So this is your pattern of chords, what they call diatonic chords. No matter what key you're in, if you start on the second note of that scale, right? You're always going to use the first, third, and fifth notes starting from the Dorian mode of that scale. You're always going to get a minor. From the Phrygian, starting off the third note of any major scale, you're always going to get a minor triad there. Starting off the fourth note of any major scale, making a Lydian mode, first, third, and fifth notes of that. Always going to be major. Mixolydian, always going to be major. Aeolian, first, third, and fifth of any Aeolian that you take from any major scale. Always going to be, it's based off the sixth note of any major scale. Always going to get a minor triad out of that. Base a chord starting off the seventh note of any major scale. You're using your Locrian mode of that major scale. always going to get a diminished triad every time. And that pattern holds true. I'm going to show you an example in another scale. So we're going to go G major. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. There's our G major scale. So we're going to take G, B, and D. That's our first, third, and fifth notes of this G Ionian that we're in right now, or the G major scale. Let's start at the next note at A. So it would be A Dorian. So that's A Dorian. First, third, and fifth notes make a minor triad. B Phrygian. No, that doesn't sound right. It is right though. Oh, it's because that's the fifth and it's where it should be. So that is a Phrygian mode. No, I'm sorry. I have to play an F sharp there. So that gives me a minor triad. And it's based off the third note of the G major scale, and we're using our Phrygian mode, right? First, third, and fifth notes of that give us B, D, and F sharp. That's our B minor triad. Start off the fourth note of the G major, which in this case is C. So C, E, and G. That's our C major, right? C major triad right there. It's the fourth one, based out of our Lydian mode. You see how it's different from what C Ionian, because we have that raised fourth there. Get that F sharp instead of an F, because in C major or C Ionian, there's no F sharp. Doesn't happen, right? But we're just using the same pattern I talked about before, starting off the fourth note of the G major or G Ionian in this case, which gives us our C Lydian. And we take the first, third, and fifth notes, always going to be major. Starting off the fifth note would be a D, right? So that's you're going to be your D Mixolydian. Only using the notes of the G major scale right now, which we're starting on a different note, but we're only using notes that happen in the G major scale, right? So that means we have to use an F sharp instead of an F when we come to it. So now that gives us our D major triad, right? Because we use the first, third, and fifth notes of D Mixolydian, right? That's what we're in here, starting off the fifth note of the G major scale. Go to the sixth note. It's an E, right? It would give us our E Aeolian. So we're going to use the first, third, and fifth notes of that. It gives us our E minor triad. E, G, and B. This is our E minor, right? That's what you get when you use the first, third, and fifth notes of the Aeolian mode in any major scale. Starting off the sixth note of that scale, you will find your Aeolian mode if you use only the notes of that scale. Finally, to the F sharp, we will get our F sharp Locrian. Gotta get back to the F sharp. Right? So, first, third, fifth notes gives us our F sharp diminished triad, because the first, third, and fifth notes of any Locrian mode, based off the seventh note of any major scale, right? It's going to give you that diminished triad. You take the first, third, and fifth notes. So, this is a pattern that you will see again and again and again in major scales, right? We have what we call our diatonic chords. Now, to make songs, you group these chords together. You take them in patterns. Like, let's say I'm in C major, right? I have my one chord. The first chord based off the first scale degree is going to be major every time. The chord that I make based off of the fifth scale degree, or fourth scale degree, let's do fourth. It's always going to be major, right? And the one based off the fifth is also going to be major. So I get that 1, 4, 1, 5 kind of progression that I can do there. So you can see how I use the chord progressions there, and I kind of arpeggiated than playing one note at a time a little bit. So you can see how these chords could work that way. I could add other chords in too. I could do I could do. So 1, 4, 2, 5, 1. Right? That's a more common chord progression. 1, 4, 2, 5, 1. Or I could do 1, 6, 2, 4, 5, 1. Come back to that 1. I could do 1, 6, 4. That almost actually works a bit too. 6, 4, 2, 5, 1. So that's kind of a common thing you'll hear a lot of times. 6, 4, 2, 5, 1. Now, why am I jumping around to certain chords to do this? There's things that are just more commonly done within Western music. There's certain orders that you tend to go after chords in that sound better to our ears. If I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just went up the scale like that, or I went 1, 7, 4, 3, 4, 6, 2, 1. That doesn't sound like anything that we've more commonly heard. It's not spacing out between those chords that or organizing of those chords that sounds familiar to us, that sounds comfortable to us in the way it harmonizes, right? It doesn't harmonize or blend together as well. But when we take these groupings where we those do sound pleasing to our ears. Those patterns do resonate with us better. We're much more accustomed to them. There have been people who totally broke on those kinds of music theory rules and done all kinds of crazy things, and especially in the 20th century, a lot of stuff that they would call atonal music that isn't focused on these chord progressions and things like that. It's just focused on how random can it be, or how disjointed can it be, how much can it intentionally break these rules. But the vast majority of music that we'll listen to follows them, right? And does subtle breakings, right? Where you'll notice a difference, but not so much that it jars you and makes you not want to listen to it, right? So, let's see here. I'm just checking chat here, seeing how you guys follow. So it goes. You sing, use scales, and your arpeggios. The big bear can't take the time to do this kind of chord progression. Yeah, it's just not his thing, and I don't blame him. You know, he's got so much other stuff on his mind. I'm glad he doesn't. Eastern music, not well. I don't play Eastern music well. I understand some scales, and they're kind of similar to like the Phrygian. There's so many different types of scales out there. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of scales and ways you can put chords together. Absolutely. I don't do that usually. I'm much more familiar with the fundamentals of the Western music system, but I'm familiar enough with a little bit of some Japanese stuff and some Middle Eastern things, especially like Indian drum speak. If you guys aren't familiar with Indian drum speak, I'll definitely have to get some videos up there. Uh-oh. What's going on here? You guys still with me? How long has it been paused? Hello? I don't know how long it's been paused. So I tell you what, my battery's at 20%. We're losing our capabilities here. I'm going to have to plug this back in. Sorry for the close-up on my shirt. But, yeah. We're about done here anyway. It's about 9:15, so it's about that time. But I'm not doing Bible and prayer with the wife. I already did prayer. She has a job interview today, and I'm very excited for her. Hey, you get to see my little nasty window up there. That's great. Yep, I'm down in the basement, and now you know it. Not the best lighting at this angle, but I'll tell you what, we're about done, so you can forgive me this time. We'll see. Fishing scales, digital analog, weighing scales, many different scales. Oh, it's all right. Thank you for your kindness. Uh, so yeah, beautiful lady bear. She is getting a job interview for a part-time gig working with a, I think it's some kind of a kennel that's nearby here. Something where she can help take care of animals a little bit. Aminals, that's what I call them. Speaking of animals, come here, kitten. Hello. You want to say hi to people? I think she's here. Kitten. Hello. Are you in the bedroom or are you out down here? She likes to hide under my table and rest a lot. It's really funny. Really, really funny. But I thought she'd come out and say hi today. I guess not. Hang on one second. I got her right here. Come here, you. Where are you? Come here, you. Come here. Come say hi to people. I haven't met you yet. I'd like to. Here. Just bring her in for a little bit. This is Chocolate Chip. And we got her from a shelter. We were adopting her just temporarily. Hang on. Hang on. I'm going to get some light on us here so they can actually see. Come here. You're okay. Hang on. If I do this, they might see us better. There we go. It didn't go off. Really? There we go. There you go. Yeah, she's a sweetie. She's actually one of the coolest cats I've ever owned. She's pretty laid back most of the time. Mm-hmm. Aren't you? And she thinks she's kind of a dog because she likes to wrestle with the dogs. She'll get right up there, lay on her back and bat in their faces and just have fun with them. But mostly she just likes to tempt them to chase her around the house. She's pretty funny. So yeah, her name is Chocolate Chip, but we always call her Kitten because we're special or something. I don't know. You don't seem to mind, do you? You're pretty cool with it? All right, I'll let you do your thing. Just thought I'd let you see the other fur baby today. But, yeah, we somehow managed to feed all 4 of these. That wasn't my plan. That wasn't my idea. That's why I love my wife. And thankfully she loves me. God had to make her dumb enough to love me, so thank God for that. At any rate. Oh, you're allowed to misspell plenty. I misspell often. I'm a champion misspeller. So yeah, we can be cool with each other. It's all right. Velcro. Did somebody misspell something back there, Kika? It's all right. Don't feel bad because whatever your difficulties in spelling are, I can assure you mine are far greater. And that's taking off of an Albert Einstein quote where he once said that whatever your difficulties in mathematics are, I can assure you mine are far greater. But he struggled with arithmetic. He had trouble with basic arithmetic often. So he wasn't like flexing his intellectual muscles at people by saying that. He was just like, I can't do basic math sometimes, and yet I can do physics. You know, so doesn't make sense. But at any rate, yeah, I hope you guys had a good time today. And I want you to think about when you're running a race, when you're doing anything that requires endurance, you know, over long periods of time. And you have those times where you just want to say, forget this, towel thrown, dunzo. How do you get back in it? How do you help yourself get back into the game? Think on that and become more specific in the way that you visualize it, that you conceptualize it. Because the more specific we get about how we engage with our lives, the more likely it is that we'll be able to do that, right? We'll know much more clearly when we're not doing what it is we've set out to do. I take some of this idea from a book that I've still not fully finished, but it's by a guy named Napoleon Hill. I've mentioned it before, Think and Grow Rich. And it was something he was encouraged to write by Andrew Carnegie, who told him he wanted to write a book on successful people. And Carnegie said, don't do that. No, you've got to write about both successful people and failures because both sides of those coins are important. Anybody who's been successful has also failed. That's part of the deal. That's how you get there. So you need to write about both if people want to learn how to succeed better and fail less. So he did that. He spent a considerable amount of time thinking on that. And one of the first chapters in there is called Thoughts Become Things, right? The more you fixate and obsess and focus more specifically on your goal, the more likelihood there is that you will achieve it. You will bring it into existence. A thought, an intangible thing that exists only in your mind, then becomes reality the more that you focus and obsess on seeing it come to fruition. So, if we want to not stay in slumps and we still want to be productive people, we want to do things in our life that benefit us, benefit others. Because why else are we here? Regardless of what your religious faith is, regardless of whether you have one or not, whatever your worldview is, right? I think it's reasonable to look at the world and say there's a decent amount of suffering around us. How can you help to reduce that? First in your own life and in the lives of others. If that's not a reason enough to be living, I don't know what is. But how can you carry a load? How can you do better with that kind of stuff and make a positive impact in some way? The first start on that is to get yourself invested in something every day where you're responsible to other people, trying to uplift them. I do that partly in coming to do these because I love interacting with you bears. I love learning from you. I love the stuff you try to squirrel me with, Dom. Failed on that today, huh? Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's I love y'all, by the way, and you can keep your wrench here if you're still here. Yeah, it's a blast being with you guys. It really is, and it's beneficial to me because it keeps me focused on what I can do to improve not only my own life but the lives of those around me, and hopefully yours in some small way. And speaking to that, I will leave by mentioning this. I shared this in the Hangouts the other night. I have a t-shirt design for Big Drum Bear. The Make Drumming Great Again and Again and Again t-shirt is going to be available starting tomorrow. Tomorrow will mark the 1 month anniversary of starting this channel, so I'm going to start making those t-shirts available. At that time, it'll be 3 weeks that it'll be available. So here's the deal. I'm going to order 50, right? I'm going to go for 50 shirts. There's 52 subscribers in the channel right now. I'm going to order 50 shirts, and I'm not going to just put it out there for you guys. I'm going to put it out there for anybody who wants to know about the channel, because it is a marketing tool to get more people to come to the channel and enjoy and hang out and get to know more people, more bears. It's a bear conversion tool, right? It's a bear evangelism tool. So yeah, it's just saying, on the back it says Big Drum Bear, and then it says YouTube or YT, FB, and IG. I couldn't get the symbols up there. That costs more. I didn't want to do that yet. I wanted to keep the cost as low as possible so that I can make that shirt just under 20 bucks. I thought that was the way to go. And I make minimal profit on that. Just enough so that I can build it bigger the next time. I can do hats, maybe. I can get Madga hats, right? And get that out to people. But that's going to become the thing. If you saw the banner in the YouTube channel here, I changed that to be Make Drumming Great Again and Again and Again, because that's what you should be doing with anything. Do your best, right? Make it great constantly. The cool thing about this shirt, though, is it's like it's the Trump thing, but it's changed a little bit. And then I'm saying "do your vest" on the back. So I'm like, am I speaking in Russian? Am I suggesting there's Russian collusion, or am I trolling the idea that people think there's collusion? Nobody's gonna know, right? You're like, is he trolling somebody? Is he trying to impress somebody? People are just gonna be confused about what your actual message is there. But they're gonna be like, what's this Big Drum Bear thing? Gotta check it out. So confusion can give people pause, and pun intended, they can then come to the Big Drum Bear channel. Check it out. It's fun. Share Big Drum Bear with your friends. Bring more people to enjoy this, and let's see it grow. There's more stuff I can do, make the channel better and more enjoyable for you guys. Thank you so much for making this past month amazing. I can't wait for another month, and beyond. Let's see where we can go with this. But guys, we're over 1,000 views now, video views, thanks to you guys. We're almost over 12,000 watch minutes. That's wild to me. Wild to me. I would never have thought that I could have a YouTube channel that would do that in a month. I'm excited, and I get to do this every morning with you guys. I will say though, I'll mention this now. Thursday morning. I won't be doing it at 8 a.m. I'll be taking a physical fitness test. So we might have a later stream. I'll schedule that sometime in the day or get some videos out. But Thursday will be an odd fish. But tomorrow we'll start the t-shirts. And feel free to share the link with anybody. It's through Teespring, that kind of thing. $20 a shirt. It's going to be pretty simple. Great gift idea. Great trolling idea for the people that left us senior life. I'm sure they'd love it. At any rate, you guys have a great day. Peace. So professional.